A dark memory circles in his mind like a tsunami, the blood trickling from her ear. Men in fluorescent jackets closing the van door and living with her father, stuck in permanent denial. It's been 20 years since, and he still hasn't come to terms with losing her. He keeps moving. Taking to North Street in the back of the black cab, Felix hasn't smoked for more than 5 minutes. His forefinger picks at the cuticle on his thumb. He motions to the driver to make the first stop, and they pull to the side. He steps out onto the concrete Camden housing area, a place he wouldn't normally enter even by day. He tells himself these are special circumstances. To the side, a drunk stumbles to the floor, her legs flail, and she raises her arms in surrender. Her friends pull her back, and laughter echoes up the road as they continue towards their early morning destination. The darkness in the estate engulfs Felix like sin. 5 minutes later, he returns to the cab. The driver's eyes look back at him like he's dirt. He opens the heavy door and falls back into the seat, a lost glare in his eyes. They set off up Haverstock Hill, Heath Way, New End Way. Felix leans back in the black cab, noticing only the lost are still out on the streets, stumbling along the hedgerows, feeling their way home. As they pull up, he exits and walks through the stone surround front entrance. He passes the quarry-tiled floor, the ornate coving and long dead relatives in oil on the walls, all staring back at him with scorn. Pat, with his mop of red hair tucked into his beanie, receives Felix with 2 beers from the windowsill. Felix places his stash on the mantelpiece and lights up. Finding it impossible to sit down, Pat continues to dart back and forth like an excited chef collecting ingredients. Among other items, he wheels in his Super 8 projector. Pat paces the floor, debating the purity of the subject. He compares his wedding film direction to Scorsese. Felix tries his best to take in Pat's wedding clips, but his mid-morning vision is too blurred. He flattens the precious piece of paper on the fireplace and brings the razor blade up and down in quick succession. He takes in his first line. Whilst Pat completes the final spool, Felix feels himself coming alive again. Pat reappears, his arms curled inwards, having gathered 2 skateboards. The lights are all out now in the neighbourhood. There's only the faint hum of traffic and partying from afar. Pat and Felix take to the streets. Starsky style, they roll over car bonnets, bouncing and colliding with the invincibility of the gods. Battling their way across the black carpet of the city, together they divide and they conquer the streets. As superheroes, they take Golders Green by storm, the silence of the night broken. Felix stops at the taxi rank and they wake the driver. The black cab takes them to the heart of Soho, past the Flask Inn that used to be the Dick Turpin, the Haverstock and the British Museum. Pat has a friend who likes to party near Tottenham Court Road. Having shared the journey in silence, they arrive at a small apartment on Greek Street. As they push open the door, the carpeting on the stairs greets them with the musty smell of despair. Felix follows Pat into a room full of media types, all in deep conversation. A green poker tray covered in powder passes around the room. He takes a seat. On his left hand is short-skirted Sophie. He likes her smile. Sophie introduces Felix to her smug-looking boyfriend. He doesn't like his smile and recoils to his right. He finds a producer called Tom, who turns out to be porn director Tom. He's working what he calls a 3D titty flick and repeats his sad joke of one day making it big. Felix gets up to go to the toilet and finds it locked. Flush. A familiar-faced man with a monobrow exits. He recognises the heavy-set features and an awkward glance. "Want to see my gun?" the man says. Seeing the humour in this claim, Felix's curiosity gets the better of him, and he follows his colleague as he walks with an awkward gait. He nervously checks behind him as they step into his room, and he walks over to a folded towel and turns back to Felix. He lifts the corner and reveals a blue pistol. Felix sees something that looks more like a spud gun and smiles. "You think it's a joke? This is a Glock 17, a polyester-framed, short recoil-operated, lock-breeched, semi-automatic pistol." He swings the point of it quickly to his friend and his forehead. Unsure of what to reply, Felix just smiles. There's a moment of silence between them. His colleague lowers the gun and releases the chamber. He holds a bullet up between two fingers, flicks it into the air like a coin and catches it. Feeling that he is suitably impressed, he exits. Felix steps back into the room. His pupils are fully dilated. His breathing, heavy. He scans the space and sees Pat engrossed in his audience. He is clearly in his element. His friends seemingly hanging on to his every word. Felix looks outside to see the sky turn from a deeper purple to shades of pink and blue. The clouds above with burnt orange highlights as the night completes itself and day begins. Felix feels the low hum of his mobile ringing in his pocket. He steps outside from the curious party and out onto the street. He takes a deep breath to inhale the morning air and puts the phone to his ear. Thank you.